The NC State Wolfpack are off to a 3-0 start to start the season. Where will they end up? We're going to talk about that next with Evan here on the College Huddle. And joining me this evening is Evan from the Red and White Podcast, our NC State affiliate here at the College Huddle. Evan, welcome to the College Huddle, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Big game last night, man. It got off to a little bit of an ugly start, and then they turned it around and 3-0. 3-0 to start the season. Obviously, that's what all the Wolfpack fans were rooting for, to get off to a good start this season, and mission accomplished. Now, it wasn't pretty, but they got here.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It wasn't pretty, and it hasn't been pretty for the first three games, to be honest. We've fallen behind in all three of them. Well, not the ECU game, but the last two, the Virginia game and the Wake Forest game. And yeah, it's going to last night. It's hard for me to nitpick so much, right? We have had historical problems in Winston-Salem, and being able to get out of there with a win, however it may have looked, is a good thing for us, right? Being 3-0, just, the thing I think is interesting is that we're finding different ways to win. Dave Doran wants to play his very ball control kind of game, and right now they need to score points because the defense hasn't been able to put together a whole game. Look at the Virginia game. We got lit up in the first half. Wake Forest game, I wouldn't say we got lit up, but gave up the kick return to open, gave up the big play over the top, and you're down 14-0 out of the gate. And the defense responded in both of those games. In the second half, they have clamped down. And last night, allowing 29 yards to Wake Forest in the second half was just a phenomenal result. And it's been a weird one. Mm-hmm. And what we say on our podcast is be interesting, right? If you're going to be average on the field, which I'm a realist, NC State is a pretty average program. Be interesting while you're doing it. Have fun while you're doing it. And now we have the offensive talent to be interesting and the skill talent to be interesting. And they are, and they're scoring points. Maybe not as aggressively as a lot of us would like, but at the end, they're winning. They're 3-0. I can't complain too much.
No, it's it's interesting. You brought up Dave Doran. He's been there a while now, man. I was diving into a little bit of his statistics. He's 90 and 65 there in Raleigh, and has gone to quite a few bowl games. I think looks like he's been to 5 of them and has won 3. It's been a while since he's won one, but he's been competitive in the ACC, to say the least. What is the fan base's feelings on Dave? Because I was in preparation for this interview, I was listening to a local radio station there in North Carolina, and the attitude from a lot of the fan base was, "Here we go again," in relation to the beginning of that game. And so it feels like to me that there's kind of like this sense of, we know who we are, and it's not where we want to be. Am I reading the room right?
Yeah, I think you are, honestly. I'll caveat this with local radio is the reason we started the podcast 10 something years ago, because historically in the area where you have Duke and Carolina, NC State was always the afterthought, even though it has been the better football program of the three. But they like to troll our fan base, right? It's just how it has been. They've been snarky, hasn't been genuine sports radio. So that tone has kind of changed, and it's been a little bit different lately, but for the longest time, I mean, that's how it's been. So take sports radio with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. But to your question on Dave Doran, right? I think a lot of people, I say for the most part, appreciate that Dave has elevated the floor of the program, right? We expect to be a bowl team, expect to be better than middle half of the ACC, trying to compete, not always going to do it, but, having your shots. And I think that's credit to Dave, and that's what he's done. But there's also on the other side, there's the frustration that he hasn't gotten over the top. If you look at the list of teams that haven't made it to the ACC championship game, it's two teams. It's NC State and Syracuse, right? I mean, that's, I guess, not counting Stanford and Cal, but yeah, like there's a bit of that, right? I think a lot of the fans will appreciate them, but at the same time, I think, you know, our innate behavior is when you go down 14-0 at Winston-Salem to start the game, or you give up that kick return, everybody's like, oh, here we go again. That's just State fans. That's just how it's going to be. Like our community, everybody's like, oh my God, here we go. Just the same thing. I'm like, yo, let's settle down. We've seen this so far this season. Let's maybe let this game play out and see how it works. But that mentality is very persistent through all of State fans. And while there's some appreciation to it, if Dave decides, hey, this is it for me, I'm done right after this year or whatever, or anytime soon, people will, I don't want to say breathe a sigh of relief, but they will be like, okay, thanks for your service. I'm ready to see something else, right? I'm ready to see a new face. I'm ready to see the way a program's run differently. And I think I agree with that. I'm the same way. I appreciate what Dave has done, but at the same time, like I want a little bit more. I want a little bit more change out of it. So you mentioned his record 90 something and 65. There's a lot of fluff in there. And
Yeah.
you can pick apart it. I'm not going to do that. But, I put a stat up last night at halftime, trailing. Well, NC State's been trailing at halftime. They were 11-49. That is not good, right? I mean, but most teams lose when you're trailing. I get that. This year, they did it for Virginia and they did it for Wake Forest. So 2-0 now. And it's a little bit different. And it's a different way they're approaching the game. They're scoring points. They're not playing just complete ball control. And so I'm trying to give Dave the benefit of the doubt through this season that he is adapting. We still see a lot of the same dumb things that we've seen in the past that are frustrating. Like I look at the UVA game, for example, is something we called out at the end of the first half. They're down 10, maybe I think it was. UVA was, or about down 7. UVA is about to score them, and defense holds them to a field goal. But there's 2 minutes there, and instead of using the 3 timeouts that we had, they just let the clock run out,
Mm.
right? And then I'm sitting here watching the Missouri game last week, and Drink, who used to be our offensive coordinator, Coach Drinkwitz, had a minute left. Same situation. He's calling timeouts. He's getting the ball with a minute left. Same, gets the ball out of halftime, just like NC State was. But he's trying to score every time he can. He's trying to get as many possessions as he can, right? The numbers tell you that's a good idea.
Right.
But I think State fans get frustrated with things like that when Dave is not playing to that, right? Call those timeouts. Get yourself a minute 45. You have the offensive talent. Virginia's not a good defense to go and score. You get the ball out of halftime and you completely flip how the game plays. We ended up winning. It worked out, whatever, but that's still the frustration points. And we
Yeah.
saw it again last night. It was kind of silly though. Last night they did call the timeout. It was a lot less time. I forgot how much time it was. And then they got the ball. They didn't try to punt block, which I thought was strange. And then they got the ball and they ran an inside zone. They're like, why'd you call that timeout? Right. And just to let your running back run up the middle for 6 yards and, risk an injury and all these other things. It's always not quite cohesive. And I think that's where State fans are frustrated with Dave. Like you just see the opportunity for them to move it to the next level, but they just keep doing the same things. Like they're happy, like, nah, we're not going to take that risk. We're going to be okay being 7-6 or whatever
Is that
whatever it
also
was.
the attitude of the administration in the athletic department when it comes to football? Is we're happy with this, and
Yeah,
that's kind
I
of where
don't
some of
know,
the
honestly.
frustration comes from.
Yeah, I think so. But Boo has never come out and said it one way or the other. And we really haven't heard much from him until this whole basketball thing went down. And then you're like, okay, he went out and got the guy that everybody wanted, right? He went out and got the name. And now where people are thinking, well, can we do that in football? Do we have the resources to put that kind of, same level into football? I don't know. I don't know where he thinks. I kind of feel like the administration's just been happy with a guy that is very low risk, right? He's not going to bottom out unless things just go catastrophically wrong on the injury side. And he's going to give you, a decent product. He's not going to be embarrassing. If you're in a min, he's going to get you 6-6. You're going to keep collecting paychecks. Fans are going to keep showing up. Like, that's a very low risk way to approach things. I kind of feel like that's how our administration has been handling it. I don't know for a fact, but that's the general consensus around the fan base.
You beat East Carolina, you beat Virginia, you went on the road, you beat Wake Forest. And taking a quick look at the schedule here, which I'll flip up onto the screen here for us. You're at Duke next. You get Virginia Tech. You get an FCS school in Campbell. The second part of that schedule is where really the meat of this schedule lies. At Notre Dame, at Pitt, Georgia Tech, at Miami, Florida State, which seems to be a much better team than everybody anticipated, and then rivalry game UNC. Evan, I want you to try to project a little bit here and tell me where you think you guys realistically could end up, because I could see you guys going 5-1, 6-0 before you get into the meat of that schedule, and that changes some of the calculus there a little bit if that were the case.
Yeah, before the season, you look at that first 6-game stretch and you think those are all winnable. But then you look at it closely from a state fan's perspective, and you see at Wake and at Duke, and you're like, we've really not done well there at either one of those places. But you got through Wake Forest. Duke looks vulnerable, right? They're not. I mean, they're a good program. I think their defense is strong, but they just got boat raced by Illinois.
Yeah, that second half was ugly.
And I think state fans are going to show up for that game. I mean, we always typically travel well to Durham. It's right down the road. So I think it'll be a good environment for us. I think it'll be a tougher game than the Wake Forest game, but it's a game that state can win. And if you get out of that game and you're 4-0 and you got Virginia Tech at home, not a lot of confidence in what Virginia Tech has right now. Even Virginia Tech doesn't have a lot of confidence in what Virginia Tech has. I think you can get to Notre Dame at 6-0, and you're looking at that game and like, that's not winnable. I just going to Notre Dame, not many teams win there. But being 6-0, getting that point, that's a national stage game at that point. It's a high profile thing for a team like NC State, and I think it's a good thing. So I think you could get there 6-0. 5-1 is probably more likely, just given how I don't think we're a complete team, but we have enough to win. So I think they'll probably slip up somewhere. It may be at Duke. But I think they're going to get Virginia Tech, and I'm sure they'll get Campbell. And then going to Notre Dame is going to be interesting. After that, I don't know if you want me to keep going, but after that, I think you get into the media schedule, and I think Pitt's a lot like us. It's a winnable game. It's not really a tough environment. We've won there before. Georgia Tech is probably one of the harder games, but they come here. And before the season, you look at Miami and Florida State, and you think, man, those teams could be on quit watch. And then Florida State goes out and boat races Alabama. And that game looks a lot harder. And I'm still not sure about Miami, but they definitely have a legit defense and they have some talent. And, they're going to be it's on the road. It's going to be a hard game. But at that point in the season, how committed are those guys, right? Are people at those programs looking to exit if they are not in a playoff position? I don't know.
Yeah.
Likely getting through, losing to Notre Dame, maybe losing to one of Pitt or Georgia Tech. Probably lose at Miami. You could clip Florida State at home. I mean, Florida State has a hard time in Raleigh. And then, the UNC game is always a flip, but that's the one game Dave really circles on the calendar. And we have historically fared pretty well in there. And I think Carolina's a mess. So I feel pretty good about that. So, I mean, that comes out at 9-3, and that's a hell of a lot better than I would have expected before the season.
Yeah, and well, let's be really positive for a minute. 10-2 puts you in the conversation for the CFP at that point, depending on who the two are. I know that's the pipe dream, Evan, but I mean, we're living in a very different world in college football right now.
Yeah, I agree.
And we have a saying around here on my podcast: 10-2 and you're in. 10 gets you in. So you got to find 10 wins on your schedule. Well, you found 3 already. like I said, some of them they weren't exactly pretty, but sometimes that's how teams have to win is they have to win ugly. And it seems like this is a team that if they can kind of rally around that, hey man, we're not pretty, but we're going to get the job done, then that could be something that kind of becomes a catalyst for this team. Really interested to watch this next game at Duke. I'm not going to lie. I think that's
Yeah,
really going to tell us a lot about this football team and about whether or not they're going to be able to go into that second part of the season and make some noise.
yeah,
So this is going to be a really, really critical game. And if you get the Duke that we saw in the second half against Illinois, then I think it's legitimately a possibility that you go into South Bend, Indiana in October, a 6-0 football team, probably ranked in the top 25 more than likely.
yeah. It's possible. Dave has never beaten Manny Diaz. Factor that in. I don't think Duke will play as sloppy as they did in this game, but again, it's still a winnable game. I think our offense has enough talent to keep us in most of these games. How they use that, is that does their philosophy change consistently enough to keep being aggressive, keep being vertical, which we've seen so far this season? That'll tell us a lot. And I agree with you. I think this Duke game is going to be a huge indicator for us. I think it's a very even matchup. Their defense is probably better. Our offense is probably better than theirs. So how this plays out, I think it'll tell a lot about the rest of the season.
Yeah. Let me ask you some big picture questions before we dive into some of the big games this weekend and we talk about your podcast. A lot of the ACC guys I have talked to, I've gotten their opinion about the ACC as a whole as a conference and where they kind of see the conference going and where does that put their school moving forward. Where are you guys at as far as the ACC as a conference and what's on the horizon? Um, I imagine
Hmm.
that there's still quite a bit of anxiety on what that television deal might look like. Is there any more news coming out of Raleigh there about that?
Not really. I think a lot of people are expecting, and I forgot what happens, but it was 2032 where people are expecting the conference to implode. Essentially, that's one of the media rights renegotiation points or something like that, which is really not that far away. I I don't know what happens. Honestly, I would have never expected the vote to include Stanford and Cal. Right? Just they've made some decisions that are just head scratching. This goes all the way back to Swafford when he was a commissioner of the conference, and locked us into this TV deal that at the time it's like, oh, that's consistent, revenue without factoring in the growth of the sport, the growth of the money into the sport, and all these other things that really set the conference behind. What's going to happen? My theory is that it's going to implode into essentially two conferences and then bust back out into like pods and regionals, and we'll be back to where we were, except for running under the SEC Big Ten umbrella. It won't be the NCAA. That's just my working theory. I don't know where it ends up. I think it's important for state to be interesting. Like I said earlier, like if you're going to be a middling program, you need to be interesting and be attractive to these other conferences. So hopefully we keep pushing that. And if Dave does step down at some point, we take the approach that we want to be interesting, right? We want to be in that. We're committed to be in that conversation. Um, that would be my take. I really don't know. It's not nothing's going to happen for a little while, but it will happen. The money's too much there for some of these schools. But at the same time, I look at it and I see Florida State and Miami starting to pull their weight, which they haven't done for a decade essentially. And when you have those two programs in Clemson performing well, and then Louisville's hanging around and NC State's hanging around, you got the other schools that are being competitive. That bodes well for the conference, right? We need those teams to be good. We need them to be what they're supposed to be. When we brought them in, what they were supposed to be. They haven't upheld their end of the deal. So if they do that, then I think that changes the dynamic there. So we'll see how this plays out over the next couple of years. Is it a flash in the pan for those schools, and how does it help the conference? But that's going to indicate a lot to me, I think.
If NC State was in a position where they get to choose which of the two conferences they'd rather go to if the ACC didn't exist, where would NC State fans like to go? The Big Ten or the SEC?
That's a tough one, man. I think most people would say the SEC just because that is football, right? When you think college football, you're mostly thinking the SEC. When you're down here in the South, does that relegate you to be Mississippi State or Vanderbilt? Like, what does that do for your program? Because it's going to make it a hell of a lot harder. Not that the Big Ten's that much easier when you have Oregon and you have Oregon and these other programs. So I don't know. I mean, I would say the SEC just because that's the South. It's going to be more regional. It's going to be, we care more about football. But yeah, I'm not sure. That would be that. I think that's what most state fans would say without thinking it all the way through. Of, hey, what does that actually mean for the program?
Mm-hmm. All right,
Somebody's got to lose.
North Carolina. Let's talk Tar Heels. So they seem to be the program that is getting the most kind of noise around them as far as the SEC and the Big Ten trying to both woo them to their side of the argument conversation. Is NC State the team that would be connected to them? I know a lot of people think Duke, but is it NC State, not Duke?
Yeah, it's NC State mostly because there is a not so well kept secret that if Carolina leaves, they can't leave NC State behind. So their only way if Carolina leaves is if we have an offer to go to one of the other ones too. It's not Duke. Duke has the brand for basketball, but that's not moving the needle. It's the board of governors being so closely tied together that if Carolina wants to get out, there's got to be a path for us to get out too.
Interesting. Okay, I had heard that, but I never had the opportunity to ask an NC State individual their take on that. So that's interesting. All right, let's do this real fast. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at tomorrow's games against the spread. Good news, Evan, I am 1-2, so going up against you here, it's good luck for you. So here's how we do this: we're allowed to pick the same exact one, unless we get to game number 5 on this list. And in which case, I will go the opposite direction of you. You get to pick first, and then I'll pick second, and then we'll switch going down this list here against the spread. Starting off tomorrow, Wisconsin travels to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to take on number 19 ranked. That sounds weird saying 19th ranked. 19th ranked Alabama. It is a 20.5-point spread. This one's a 12 o'clock noon kick on ABC. Are you taking the under or over on that one, Evan?
I'm taking Wisconsin in the points.
All right, take the under. Yeah. I'm gonna. They looked awful good last week, although it was against a much lesser opponent. They looked terrible against Florida State. I'm with you. I feel like that's Vegas trying to bait you. I mean, three scores is 3 scores. I don't care how you. That's a nice win, and Wisconsin still knows how to play defense. They haven't forgotten how to play defense. Luke Fickell's a defensive guy. That feels like a lot. I agree. Let's go with the under. Number 6, Georgia gets 3.5 at number 15, Tennessee. 3:30 kick on ABC. I thought for sure Tennessee was going to take a step back this season, although they look pretty decent in those first 2 games, albeit against lesser opponents. Georgia has not looked like the Georgia we all expected Georgia to bounce back being this year. I feel like Kirby Smart maybe has kind of lost a little bit of that control of that program. He definitely has when it comes to speeding tickets. My gosh, I'm gonna go ahead and take Georgia in the points here. I think they cover.
Give me Tennessee. I think
Tennessee are you gonna pick the upset with it?
Yeah, I think Tennessee can win this game.
Okay.
I think they're gonna make Gunnar Stockton throw the ball, and we're going to see how well he can do that.
Hey, listen, I hope you're right. I ain't gonna lie. Like that would make tomorrow very, very interesting. In a game that no one cares about outside of Pitt and West Virginia, it's the backyard brawl. Pitt's traveling down to a West Virginia team who got beat by Ohio, not Ohio State. Ohio, okay? That's we here in the Buckeye State call Ohio. We don't even call them our little brother. It's the family pet. That's who Ohio is. They play at the Shoe tomorrow at 7:30. Ohio University does. But West Virginia dropped by 7. They went into Athens, Ohio, lost that football game. And now they welcome in the Pitt Panthers. Pitt's getting 7.5. Who you going with here, Evan?
I'm taking Pitt and I'm laying the 7.5. I think they
Yeah.
win probably by 10. I know it's a heated rivalry. I just don't have that much faith in West Virginia these days. It's just not the same program it used to be.
No, it's not. And that last week proved that. I'm with you, dude. I think Pitt actually puts it on them pretty good. In the game, in the game that can you imagine living in a world if number 18 USF Southern Florida after beating Boise State on a Thursday night when no one saw that one coming, and then going into the swamp and embarrassing Florida, can they do it again? Can they actually go into Miami and take down the Canes? Canes getting 17.5 here, man. They're ranked 5th. UCF is now ranked 18th. 4:30 kick, and this is what the schedule makers thought of this game going into the season. It's on the CW, folks. Who would have ever thought that this one should have been probably prime time on an actual real network? Um, 17.5, man. I think USF's going to give Miami a better game than they anticipate. I don't think. I can't imagine USF winning this football game. I can't, like, that is crazy talk. But I think it's going to be closer than 17. So I'll take the points, man. Lay the
Yeah,
points.
I'm
I'll
with
take
you.
USF. Yeah.
Weird things happen on the CW though, and NC State fans will know that we perform really well in the CW when nobody's watching. It's fantastic. So I wonder if USF gets a little bit of that bump. 17.5, I think, is too much, mainly because I'm not all in on Miami yet. Like, I think they're good, but I'm not sure. I know their defense is good, and Ruben Bain is absolute monster up front. But Byron Brown, he's a local kid from Raleigh, just up the road. I'm pulling for UCF. I think 17.5 is too much. It's probably more like a 14-point game, even a 17-point game. Somebody kicks a field goal at some point, but I'm pulling for the Bulls, so I'm going to pick the Bulls in
Oh, yeah.
17.5.
I can't imagine what college football would look like if Tennessee takes down Georgia and the Bulls of USF beat Miami. Like, I
Yeah,
can't imagine what it will be like tomorrow night. All right, and then in the final game on NBC at 7:30, it's a rematch from last year's big game in week number 1. Number 16th ranked Texas A&M travels up to South Bend, Indiana, to take on the Irish, who are 0-1 on the season after losing in Miami to start their season. They're getting 6.5 points. Go ahead, man. Who you got on this one?
give me Notre Dame. Lay the 6.5. I'm not sold on Marcel Reed, even though they do have Casey Concepcion from NC State. I don't know if Texas A&M. I don't know if they've got it. I need to see more from them. I think Home Slice at Notre Dame is doing a hell of a job, and I blanked on his name at the moment.
Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Freeman. Yeah, sorry. I like Notre Dame there at home. Not many people go up there and win. I can see a touchdown game easy here. Give me Notre Dame, lay the points.
Northern Illinois last year did.
I know, but they're they'll be ready for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They were
This
caught off guard by Northern Illinois, and that was just an aberration.
I feel like Notre Dame usually loses one every year where you're kind of like they just didn't play well.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
and if that's the case in week 1 against Miami, in Miami they didn't play well. New starting quarterback. It took them some time to figure it out. Uh, they've got their kind of backs against the wall now. They cannot go 0-2. That will really hurt their chances of making the college football playoff with not being in a conference and being able to get to a conference championship game. And regardless of what happens the rest of the year, the voters are going to remember you started 0-2 against the two teams that may or may not make the playoff.
Yeah,
So they need this win. Yeah, I'll lay the points. I'll go with Notre Dame as well in this one. So I think we agreed on everything minus the Georgia Tennessee game.
there we go.
So it comes down to that one for us, bud. So that's worth watching tomorrow, Evan. You and myself to see who will win. Hey, like I said, I started off 1-0, and then the last 2 weeks I've gone not done so well. So the odds are in your favor, Evan. The odds are
There we
in
go.
your favor. Tell everybody about your podcast, man. Where they can find you, follow you. You guys do great work over there, brother.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we've been doing it for 13 years now, I believe
Wow,
so. We're
awesome.
getting close to 1 million downloads, so I'm really happy that we have a really strong community, a strong audience. We try to be honest, man. We try to tell it like it is. That's how we approach it, like from the fans. We're not going to read a box score. We're not going to give you fluff just because we have to maintain our, connections and whatnot. So you see a lot of people doing. And I think the fans connect with that. People can find us at Red White Podcast pretty much wherever you look. redwhitepodcast.com takes you to our site, and yeah, that's where all stuff is.
I knew you guys had to be doing it for a while to get the Red and White podcast. 'Cause, I mean, that's
Well, I have NC State football too, so I had that handle before they had it. My co-host
whoa,
uses it. Yeah, yeah.
nice. Hopefully you got
My
some change
personal
for that.
my personal handle is user number 730 on Twitter. So if you look at ER on my personal Twitter handle, user number 730. So I've been there a while.
Nice. Well done, man. That's pretty good. Hey, if you're an NC State fan, go check them out. We'll put the link for their website down in the show notes here in the comments. So make sure you go and give them some love if you are not following them already. If you are an NC State fan, we'd love for you to follow our YouTube channel as well here at the College Huddle. We have 85 podcasts from coast to coast, everybody covering their favorite teams as well. And we try to promote each and every single one of those podcasts who represent their school here at the College Huddle. Independent pods doing their thing, man, and working together just like Evan and I did here. So let us know what you think about what we think down in the comment section below. Please hit that thumbs up if you don't mind, and please consider subscribing to the channel. One last question, Evan. If I were to sneak into an NC State game and I want to fit in with the locals and not stick out like a sore thumb, give me a chant, a hand signal or gesture. Is it the wolf pack?
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
just wear red. Do this. Tell them
yeah?
you're part of the Pod Army, and you'd
Okay.
be in, man.
All
Yeah,
right. There we go. I
there
wondered
you go.
if it was the wolf pack. I thought I saw that on a couple of your games,
Oh yeah,
people
absolutely.
throwing up the wolf pack sign. So all right, at least I won't get in trouble if I show up at an NC State game going, "Hey guys, I'm in."
Yeah. Yep, you'd fit right in. We're a
All right,
welcoming
guys.
bunch.
Enjoy the games this weekend. Evan, congratulations on going 3-0. We're looking forward to that big Duke game in a week or so. So make sure you're all checking out the Red and White podcast over there. Make sure you come back here and we'll see how we did. Over the weekend, we'll have another great interview, more great talk here on the College Huddle, everybody. Till next time, go Pack.
Go Pack.